chair up here. I need you to all come in. I've got this chair from Mr. Sculp right over here.
I don't want to take this.
I want you to
Sit down, Chuck.
Now, you heard Jane.
So if you please come in, get yourself positioned, because I want to get started. All right, I'm Janie Hendricks. I'm a Turkey Creek resident, and I'm going to moderate this meeting and try to keep some control. So I'd like to have Larry Noble come up and make a few statements. He has a few points he wants to make, and about a sign-in sheet up there and a few other remarks. So this is Larry Noble.
Okay, for any of you that don't know, we formed a group out here called Turkey Creek Homeowners for Environmental Justice, Inc. We're incorporated, and that was for the purpose of protection. If you would like to become a member of that group, there is a sign-up sheet over by Peter Perkins. We have a mission statement, tells you what we're about. We're about protecting the citizens of Turkey Creek, Hay, and this surrounding area from perpetrators which will possibly endanger the lives and property values of anyone in this area. That's basically what we are, who we are. So if y'all would, feel free to sign up. I've got a lot of you signed up already, but if you haven't, Peter's got the sign-up list over there. Thank you.
Don't you want to make now? Why don't you just go into your opening remarks, and then we'll hand over the platform to the folks from GRU.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to tell you about an article written by Chris Curry with the Gainesville Sun on August the 29th of 2013. It tells of an email from Karen Heiler, representative of GREC, the biomass plant, to the Assistant General Manager of GRU for Customer Support Services, Kathy V. In this email, Ms. Heiler tells Ms. V that she, Karen Heiler, has heard from the people from Turkey Creek first on August 21st of 2013, and that they, GREC, are in the process of a startup of their equipment. She said that she apologized to those from Turkey Creek who have complained and assured them that they were taking this issue very seriously about the noise. She said that they were hiring a company to assist them in complying with the noise and other problems associated with their operations. She also went on to state that they will comply with the applicable noise ordinances of the City of Gainesville. Well, it's now going on 13 weeks since Ms. Heiler notified by the residents of Turkey Creek that they, the Turkey Creek residents, had not had the use of their own bedrooms or any of their outside porches or patios for that period of time. Not to mention opening a window at night to avoid using the heating and air conditioning system. Since when is it right for an outside company from Boston to come into our community and take away our rights of domestic tranquility for their GREC's monetary gain? It is clearly stated in the City of Gainesville noise ordinance that if a noise is clearly audible at over 200 feet from the perpetrator's property, that it is a violation of the ordinance. Bear in mind, Gainesville Regional Utilities is the landlord for the tenant, GREC. That is causing the violation that we're speaking of. And that if you are the landlord, you are responsible for your tenant. Unfortunately, it is GRU's city manager, or the city manager of Gainesville, Mr. Russ Blackburn, chooses to direct the Gainesville Police Department officers to ignore this violation of the law. How come over 13 weeks have you, GRU, conveniently ignored responsibility as a landlord, and now you, 13 weeks later, come to us tonight? How long would you have tolerated this if it was in your neighborhood and you were in our situation? Probably not 13 weeks. Through the actions of Mr. Hunzinger and others, GRU has destroyed all credibility by facilitating GREC and neglecting your own ratepayers in every way, i.e. the absurd 30-year contract in GREC's favor and the $101.5 million FUPA in GREC's favor. It's time for GRU to step up for your own ratepayers and the people of Alachua and admit to and correct your terrible mistakes. Or is it the following of GRU to be puppets of a few misguided souls from Gainesville who have created this unneeded nightmare of which you have put upon your own ratepayers and the people of this area of Alachua? GRU must admit that the biomass, along with the 30-year contract, may possibly be the highest and biggest mistake ever made on behalf of your ratepayers and a great injustice to the people of the Alachua and Hague area. Why not step up now, admit to your mistakes, rather than have to face your own ratepayers later when they are faced with the highest electric rates in the state of Florida? Not to mention the lawsuits from the people of Alachua whom have been damaged by that GREC plan. This will all take place after GREC has taken the money and run back to Boston, leaving GRU with the liability. So stand up and admit you have made a grave mistake and show some integrity by trying to make this absurd contract null and void. This would give you back some credibility to your ratepayers and give the people of this area of Alachua our lives back. That was a personal statement, but I hope that each of you feel the way that I do. I'm pumped and I'm fired up. And I'll tell you what, I've had enough of it. For over 13 weeks, I don't think we need any more of it. And tonight, we're getting a chance to give back a little bit of what we've been going through. Just a point of information. Is there anyone here who is in favor of the GREC plan? I'd like to see a show of hands.
We have one person back here who said GRU on the shirt.
Oh, okay. And you are?
John Stanton.
John Stanton. Oh, you work with Mr. Hunzinger, right?
I have.
Or you did? Okay.
Do you live here?
In Gainesville?
Do you live here?
Oh, no, ma'am, I do not.
Okay.
Disqualified.
Okay. To quote an evangelist friend, Mr. Ken Smith, Reverend Ken Smith, this whole thing is from the pits of hell and smells of smoke. Thank you all.
Are there any empty chairs? No? All right.
Here's one. Is my husband gonna, Peter, are you gonna come sit down?
No, go ahead and get it.
Okay, then somebody, here's one here.
All right, please. All right, so I'm going to hand over the floor to Kathy Viehe.
Hello. So this is my third week on the job. I would say the city commission meetings are a lot easier than this. So I'm Kathy Viehe, and I'm the Interim General Manager at GRU. And as I mentioned, this is my third week on the job. I've been in the municipal utility industry for about 26, 27 years. I worked with GRU for almost 18, and I've been with 3 other municipal utilities, 1 in the state of Florida and 2 in the state of Tennessee. I have a background in Communications, customer communications. I have a background in customer service, purchasing, our stores and warehousing facilities like that, conservation services, solar, and a variety of other different things. What I don't have is I don't have a technical background in power plants, purchase power agreements, and things like that. But I would like to just say right up front that, you know, I took this job because I believe that we have a lot of really good employees at GRU, and for my 18 years we've provided excellent service to our customers. Unfortunately, we now find ourselves in a position of having high rates, and as a municipal utility employee I can tell you that that's not acceptable. I wasn't raised that way, and I think I was talking to Mr. Noble earlier. I used to work for a gentleman named Mike Kurtz, and Mike, among many other directors that I worked for, kind of ingrained in us that, you know, having competitive electric rates was critical. And we're in a position now where our rates are not competitive in the electric area. Our other services, we are competitive. In gas, we're one of the lowest in the state. So my focus now is competitive electric rates, and part of that is the contract that we have for the biomass plant. I want to just kind of tell you what I've been able to observe over the last couple of weeks. We have a contract. It's a long-term contract. We're going through a process now of really looking into the contract, looking at every single detail in the contract and trying to determine what, if anything, we can do to bring about greater value to our customers. At the same time, we understand that there's some issues with sound and some other issues. I talked with John earlier today, and he gave me news that the plant is going to shut down either Saturday or Sunday this weekend and will not start up again until the baffles are installed on the stack. So, the first week of December. Now, I'd love to take credit for that,
What was his question?
but I can't.
What was his question?
He said, what is the date that the installation of the baffles will occur? And I said, the first week of December is the closest date that I have. So you will be getting some relief, but I understand that there's an... Yes, sir, do you want to...
I want to ask, if the noise reoccurs, will you shut the damn thing down permanently?
Well, we don't have the ability to shut the plant down. We
See, if they put baffles in and it does no good, then we go on. You walk outside, there's a drone of that power plant. It drones 24 hours a day. The smell is overwhelming. The value of our homes is zero because nobody can buy it.
So I want to be sure everybody understands, GRU does not own the plant. So if we did own the plant, we would have the ability to operate it the way that we want to operate it. But we don't own the plant. We're doing what's called a purchase power agreement, where we agreed to buy the power over a 30-year term. Yes, sir.
Yes. My name is Jim Warner. I'm a Turkey Creek resident. And I've looked at the city ordinance. You do have the right. If you go back and you look at your ordinance... Let me finish, and then you'll get your chance. You do have the right to stop it. You've got the right. If there's news or noise, it's plainly audible. Now, anybody in the room say it's not plainly audible? I think it plainly is audible. You've made noise measurements. You've not done anything to ask them to stop. You have the ability. Do we have to go to court and declare it a public nuisance? Because you're the landlord. The city ordinance says, as landlord, you're responsible. Take your responsibility and do it. If they shut the plant down and it comes back in and doesn't meet noise measurements, shut the damn thing down again. But stand behind us, not GREC. That's all we're asking out of you. Stand behind us. Help us out.
So I did not negotiate the contract. I was not involved in the negotiations of the contract.
What's the contract got to do with the city ordinance? Enforce the city ordinance.
Sir, could I please just finish?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, so here's the thing. We came out here tonight because I'm interested, and I know some of my staff is interested, and we're trying to help as much as we can, but we don't have the ability to operate the plant. And I know there's people who have different opinions, and I am fine with different opinions. But we didn't come out here to debate or argue or fight. We came out here to listen. So I hope we can do that. If we can't, then there's not any point in us being here. So if I could continue, yes, ma'am.
I would just like to ask you, and I don't know if you have the answer, but maybe you've all already heard this. When this decision was made...
State your name, please.
My name is Linda Blau, and I'm a resident of Turkey Creek. When this decision was made to have this contract with this company, GREC, was it ever considered that you were going to affect the lives of 2,500 people across the street? Was that ever in your consideration? All I want to know.
Well, keep in mind that I did not negotiate the contract.
But you have to know these things.
We're not even on the site.
Well, I don't think anybody, again, at the city commission level, when the decision was made and the contract approved, I don't think anybody thought that there was going to be an issue of this kind, or I can honestly say I don't think that...
Why wasn't the due diligence done on these biomass plants? The evidence is out there.
I can't answer that question. What I can do is, again, this is my third week on the job, what I can do is try to deal with the going forward part. I can't answer what happened and why and who didn't do what. I can only tell you what we can do going forward. Because that's my charge, that's my job. You know, so, yes, ma'am.
If GRU
State your
were
name.
really
State your name.
Judith Hooker. If GRU was really serious and listening to what we had to say and then getting some response, wouldn't they have sent somebody who knew about the technical aspects?
If you want to talk about technical aspects of the plant, I have someone here that's John Stanton, is technical, and can speak about the technical aspects of the plant, if that's what you want to talk about.
Would you even be willing to talk about this gray, huge cloud I'm seeing?
Would you be willing to speak on that?
To Millhawk, to Waldo Road.
Yes, sir.
My name is Max Wright. I live out here. I'm not a big fan of the plant, but I think we ought to let this woman speak her piece before we keep interrupting.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Tell us what you're going to do going forward.
Well, my staff, we're looking at two things, and I realize these may not impact you as much as they do our customers, but there's two things that we really want to look at. We want to look at the contract and the terms of the contract. We're looking at trying to bring in a third party of some sort. We're still looking and trying to determine who that might be, to go through the contract and see if there are any things that we can do to get additional value out of the contract, and that sort of thing. So that's one aspect of it. And then the second aspect of it is trying to integrate it into our generation. As you know, we own a plant, the plant right next to it, the Deerhaven plant, and John and his staff manage that plant. And for many, many years, I don't think we've been bad neighbors. I think we've been good neighbors. I know my first probably 10 years here, we had new combustion turbine put in out there, and we had an open house. We had a lot of people from this neighborhood and from Turkey Creek Forest who came out and toured around. So, I mean, I have to say that I really believe that our hearts are in the right place. We've always been good neighbors. We try to do the right thing, but we're certainly not perfect. And I can't speak for the people who aren't here anymore. It's not my job to do that, and I can't do it. I just don't have the knowledge of why people didn't do the right thing 3 years ago, or did do the right thing, or whatever the case may be. What I can tell you is that we truly are concerned. And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a light sleeper myself. I don't live out here, I live in town. But I'm a light sleeper, I sleep with an air filter on, I have an app on my iPad that makes noise. And that's what I need to sleep. So I do feel bad about this whole situation. Whether or not, we can shut down the plant, I don't believe we have the ability to shut down the plant. Now, if there is a finding of fact, in other words, people who regulate the laws and the air quality and those kinds of things, that's not GRU. In fact, we are heavily regulated, and John can, tell you about a lot of the things that we have to do. We're regulated on air, water, land, I mean, it just on and on. And so the people that regulate GREC, if there is a finding of fact, that they are out of compliance with the laws, then that opens up the terms in the contract that say that they have to adhere to all the laws. And the contract speaks to this. It speaks to what the remedy is, and we have to allow GREC the time to remedy the situation. So, again, if there's a finding of fact, if DEP comes in and says that they're violating their air permit, or if Alachua County comes in and says they're violating some other permit that they regulate, or if, I'm trying to think of what, if GPD issues some type of violation of the noise ordinance, then we have the ability to say to GREC, let's remedy. But I think it's also important to point out that GREC is trying to remedy right now. And in fact, will shut the plant down and install baffles at their own expense to try to deal with the noise issues here. So, you know, I hear some snickering about that, so I would be curious as to what that's about, because I'm really interested. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rogers came out here, Mr. Rogers, and he said they'd never tried these baffles before. This is a design by one of their engineers that came up at the last minute because of our complaints that there was a noise. And he said they've never tried it before, they don't know if it'll work.
Yeah, and I think that's accurate, but I will tell you that in my conversations with folks like John Stanton, and John, if you want to speak to this, I believe baffles have been installed in other plants, maybe not by GREC, but they have been done in other places. Do you want to talk about it?
I'm happy to. It's a common approach to it, and many stacks are designed from the beginning of the plant with sound attenuation baffles in them. So it may, and Mr. Rogers is not a technical guy, so it may be referring to what they were doing with their particular experience. For instance, the stacks at the Kelly combined cycle plant, those stacks have attenuating sound baffles in them. So it's a proven technology to address sound.
So you're pretty confident it's going to work?
I think from what I know, let me couch that in saying I think it will address some of the wavelengths that are affecting. Now, whether that meets the satisfaction of everyone in that room, that I can't answer.
Why were they not installed originally?
I can't answer that.
Cutting corners.
How can you go and do this and not know what the result's going to be? You're going to spend their money, and you're not sure it's going to fix anything.
Well,
you have to know. Somebody has to know and done the numbers. How many dB is they going to drop the noise on that stack?
Keep in mind that that's not.
Somebody know? Do you know that?
That's not John's job to know that. That's the owner of the plant. That's their job to know.
Who owns the property that the land sits on? Is that Alachua County?
The City of Gainesville owns the property.
The City of Gainesville owns the property. That's right. There you go. I don't get my power from GRU. I get my power from Duke Energy. I live in Hague. There's no baffle. There's no trees between me and here like there is in Turkey Creek. I live in Dairyland. I live in a nightmare. Tonight, I thank you for turning the plant off. I realize that you're here to, as you say, answer questions. The fact is, I've had my first night's sleep last night. If I seem a little angry, it's because I'm sleep deprived. This is unbelievable. My value of my property, you want to listen? Listen to this. My property 6 months ago was worth maybe $300,000. I'd be lucky to get 125 right now. Who in the world wants to live out here with this noise? I got the stink. I was standing on my front veranda of my 2-story home. I can listen to the backup alarms from the front loaders loading the wood into the thing. They probably can't hear that here. I can hear all that across the street from my neighborhood name.
I can hear them.
No, we can hear it.
This is unbelievable. This lip service that you keep giving us is a bunch of crap. You know,
I asked a question earlier that I really did want to sort of answer to.
Okay,
like, what is the plan down the road for all of the smoke we're seeing on the air that's hanging over
The emissions.
Turkey Creek, Mill Hopper, and all the other areas?
So again, I'm not aware of smoke in the air. I know that there's condensation that comes out of it. I know that there's condensation. I know that there's condensation that comes out of the smokestacks at both the Deer Haven and...
Can you answer that question about the smoke? Is there anything that can be done about that? And the
Well,
smell?
sir, let me see this. I have not personally, and I've looked at that plant a lot,
Okay.
and I have yet to see any visible smoke. Now, what you will see, and you'll see it from Deer Haven too, early in the morning, when it's cooler and humid, you will see condensation coming off the cooling towers. It's a big, no, not orange.
Well, we get orange.
I've lived here for 13 years. I know how the sky looks. The sky is different.
So is the answer to that there's nothing that's going to be done about the smoke coming out of that stack and the soot that lands on our cars and patios and such?
Sir, I will say this, that the requirements for, and one thing too, listen, I am not defending GREC. Okay. I'm trying to explain best I can. And I know there's certain people who have been accusing a number of people on GRU staff of being in bed with GREC, that's supporting them. I get paid by GRU. I'm loyal to GRU. Our customers pay us. That's the side I'm on. So with that, any power plant, GREC or others, monitors at extremely tight levels the emissions. There's a device called a CEMS, Continuous Emission Monitoring System. It looks at opacity, the visible plume. It looks at particulate matter down to the micron level. It looks at SO2. It looks at NOx. It looks at mercury. It looks at all of these things. And right now, we know of nowhere that GREC is out of compliance with any of those parameters, and their parameters, being the newest plant in the state of Florida, are as tight or tighter than anybody else's. And again, I am not defending them. I'm just explaining the way the situation is there. They are currently, right now, doing their final environmental testing. They have to bring in an outside agency certified by the State Department of Environmental Regulation that does the tests in parallel with their on-site monitoring to verify everything is correct. And they are in the final stages of completing that. That's why they're going to be shutting down this weekend. That information is going to be put into the Department of Environmental Protection. Right. So that, I guess, it maybe doesn't directly answer your question, but it's the best information I can offer you right now.
It doesn't answer it at all. When it fires back up, you cannot say whether that smokestack is going to start spewing out soot again and dust.
This is
You don't know. You don't know.
John, I know that the state will require them to be in compliance with standards that are as tight or tighter than any other power plant in the state of Florida.
Well, where are they now? I mean, where were they when they fired the plant up? John, all those regulators.
Well, they are, again, I'm not here to defend GREC, but they are, doing observations, looking at data that, because they still have to comply with their construction permit, much less a full-blown operating permit.
But they've been operating for 13 weeks.
That's right. And the regulating agency, as Ms. V points out, the ones that would issue a citation if they were out of a violation have not issued anything. So we don't have the ability to go in and do anything until an agency that controls the regulations says they're in violation of the regulations.
Nobody has the ability to do anything this year, right? That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I wouldn't make a general statement about anything, but if we're speaking strictly about air emissions, I mean, GRU does not have the authority to do anything about air emissions, nor does the city. What? It's DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, that regulates air emissions.
That's not right.
And they regulate us as well.
I have a question, two things.
Yes, sir.
I live in Turkey Creek, and I'm relatively new to the area. That sickeningly sweet smell, is that from the plant?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, all right? I'm going to make an assumption trying to move forward, okay? I'm going to make the assumption that you do want to make things right for us out here, okay? So my question is, how do we help you? Do we as a community need to hire our own EPA attorney and file a class action lawsuit against GRU? We're willing to do that. Okay?
I can't tell you all what to do. I think that's
what I'm asking
right.
is, what can we as a community do? Because we have seen land values drop off. We've seen property. Very honestly, I don't care if the plant is there or not. I don't want to smell it.
Right.
I don't want to hear it, and I don't want to pay for it. Okay. I think it's been a bad business decision based on the numbers I've seen, and I've crunched with some of my clients and understand what it is. But that's a decision the City of Gainesville and GRU have to make, all right? Ultimately, we're going to pay for that. What I'm concerned with is when I get out in the morning and I'm running, and I've got headphones on, and I can hear this thing over the music in my headphones, it's loud.
Right.
And my question to you is, what can we as a community do to help you make them enforce the rules? Because we don't need to be living like this. It's that simple. If I decrease my property value and it drops $100,000 like this gentleman back here, that's your liability, in my opinion.
Yes.
And that is something we should come to you and say, that's fine. I lost $100,000 in the sale of my home. You owe that to me. The City of Gainesville will latch whoever you decide to push off, but that is not the responsibility and liability of the people in this community. So what do we do to help you? That's my question. Yeah.
Well, I guess what I would hope we would do, and I don't feel like I'm different from you. I feel like I'm in this with you, not standing on the other side. So I think what we need to do is, again, this is my opinion, what we need to do is see if these baffles will solve the problem. And if they don't, then I think we're going to have to go to the next step. I don't know what that next step is, but that to me is giving GREC the opportunity to resolve the problem. And I've spoken to other engineers besides John, and you know, what I've been told is these baffles often work and do the trick. And
okay, I understand that. The question is if they don't, okay? You're going through the contract. What you're looking for in the contract right now is to make sure that you may have the strength to go after GREC to make sure they comply. Okay?
Well, we want to make sure GREC complies with everything in the contract, whether it be this or anything else. Anything that's in that contract, and it's quite detailed. You know, there's probably 100 items in there that we have to be looking at all the time. We want to make sure they comply with the contract.
It's not, it doesn't sound right now like it's been sounding. In case you don't know, this isn't normal.
No, let me just say this. You know, I'm going to say it again because John said it, but I want to say it. I'm not here to defend GREC. I don't have any strong feelings for or against GREC.
I just didn't want you to think this was normal.
No, and I know it isn't, and I don't doubt that anything that y'all have said. Well, I did drive through Turkey Creek one afternoon, but I have to admit I didn't hear it. When I got back to the office, I was told the plant was shut down.
I've got a recording, I'll play you.
No, like I said, I get those emails, and I don't dispute or doubt anything that you all have said. I don't think that this many people would be here. Mr. Stanton?
Yeah. I think I heard someone in the audience go, well, of course it's different, it's shut down. It's not shut down now. What Ms. Viehe said before is they're anticipating shutting down after this environmental testing on Saturday or Sunday. And staying down until the baffles are installed and they would come back up. But today, it's running today exactly like it was running.
Don't believe you, we don't believe you. You're lying.
I will restate that in that they are running today at the same output. I have seen the data.
You got to prove it.
I want to contend to you that the noise is coming over there from your chipper.
Hands up back here.
Last Monday night at 10 o'clock, they were chipping, and that thing was rumbling like a thunderstorm.
Sir, the plant does not have a chipper.
It doesn't?
No, sir.
Then last Monday night, it was like a thunderstorm.
The wood is delivered already chipped.
We're wasting our time.
First part, Deer Haven's been there. We never had problems or issues with Deer Haven. Okay? Second part, I run the power plant on campus. You can walk a block away from our power plant and not hear it. All right? You can walk next to it And on days when we're at full load, you're hard pressed to hear it run.
Right.
The only time you hear us is when we're dumping steam, when there's no demand.
That's right.
And that's a block away, not miles away. There's a problem.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to clarify this
Can I just
red
respond to
cloud.
that? Can I respond to what you said? I appreciate what you said, and I agree with you, and our plants are the same way. And I do believe GREC has said there is a sound issue and they're trying to fix it. So I'm not going to disagree with anything you said. Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay, I want to clarify this red cloud that people keep talking. It's not coming from the stack. Okay, it's coming from the people moving the stuff around to the ground. I came home the other night about 9 o'clock, and the lights were so bright, and you could see this big red cloud all over the place.
Gray cloud.
Well, it's all this crap that you're trying to burn, the chips. And they're moving it around, and when they move it around, it goes up into the air.
Okay, Jerry, did you have a question?
Yeah, Kathy. We sent you a list of requests that you haven't had a chance to look over.
I looked over the list of questions.
And but there were requests as well.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to look at those.
And you've alluded to the fact of, solving the noise problem, but, you've heard there's more than just a noise problem. There's an odor problem, there's the dust problem, there's a lot of problems. But one of the things that we want you to do, because we've been struggling for this for so long, and all we got was a police officer coming out and doing a test, a sound test, and then whatever, and then nothing, right? So I kept thinking, well, why don't they come out here and survey the people of Turkey Creek to find out what's going on? I kept waiting, and nothing. We've gone to city commission meetings. I mean, we've talked about it, and all I hear is one commissioner say, well, I hope the people out at Turkey Creek are not laying in their beds at night saying, oh, is that the power plant? Biomass plant running? I saw that, I was there. That's how we're being treated, okay? Now, here's how you can step up to the plate. If you have to go back to the city commission and tell them, you're sitting there all the time now, we need some things done. And I sent you a list. We need to know when this plant is operating all the time. We need to know what capacity it's operating, when it's shutting down. John, you're saying we think it's going to shut down on
Saturday
or Sunday.
Correct. We want to know when. You have that knowledge because you're buying the power.
Well,
you have to coordinate with them because you need to know when you're not going to have that power available.
So let's clarify something, and John, I might need your help here,
okay.
but right now we're buying test power, and so the test power is, it's not the same as when the plant becomes fully operational and then we start buying the power to sell to our customers on a daily, everyday basis. We'll decide to dispatch it and that sort of thing. Right now we're just taking their test power, and as far as I know, John, they'll notify us when they're going off, but we don't always know at the exact moment. Like we heard today that it would be Saturday or Sunday, but we don't know when Saturday and we don't know when Sunday.
We will, once we get closer to it, right now,
Right.
as I mentioned, they're in testing, and sometimes the testing takes a little longer, a little quicker than you go. You may run one more test. So that's what they're looking at, and they also want to coordinate with us. Do we want them to stay on for another day? Do we need the power because of things that are going on elsewhere in our system? So they coordinate with us.
Well, I would like you to either buy power from them or not buy power from them. Are you saying that you've already contracted with them to buy power for the next 100 years?
Yes.
That's insane. That's insane. How could we get in that position?
please, I want to give as many people an opportunity to ask a question. So if I see a hand go up and it's somebody who hasn't spoken, I'm going to recognize that person. Mary Lou?
There's nothing environmentally friendly about this plant. From the water usage, to the fact that they're cutting down green trees, to the fact that there's stuff being emitted into the air, whether it's coming from the wood stacks or it's coming from the stacks themselves. The noise level's horrible, it's affecting the wildlife out here. I was driving home on 441 the other day, I got behind one of the trucks that had just dumped all their wood chips. I have a brand new car, fortunately, after 11 years I have a brand new car. And I got behind this thing and wood chips are flying out of it, flying on my windshield, hitting my car. If I had been on a bike, and we have a lot of bikers around here, I would have been killed. I mean, just driving over them, my car was going like this. It's a public safety issue, just with the trucks, not to mention the diesel fuel that they use.
Okay, another speaker who hasn't, okay, Paul?
I'm Paul Yasker, I live here in Turkey Creek. I have histoplasmosis. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a lung disease. I've already been at the doctors, and they are checking me. Now, if anything worse gets with my lungs because of this plant, I can't even go out in my big backyard because the smell is so pungent that I can't breathe that in. It's like breathing second smoke. You know, when people smoke, you're not even supposed to breathe that, and that's what I have to stay away from. I've been wearing a mask when I go outside. I didn't wear it tonight, but it's annoying. I don't have any kind of a life now. Now, somebody's got to do something about this. It's not only the noise. I mean, I have a 4-bedroom house, and I can't sleep in any one of the bedrooms. That's how annoying it is. My head is going like it's constant hum in my head, honestly. And I'm not about to die from particulates that are coming out of this plant. Somebody better do something about it. Now, you have all this information. I hope you're taking a tape recording. It's been sent to the City Commission and to the County Commission. City of Alachua knows it. You know, and we all buy gas from Gainesville utility from you guys. You know, what if all this stuff stopped? We could get from someplace else. The water is coming for this plant from the aquifer. The aquifer. No, but from the city of Alachua.
They're not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. I understand what you're saying. But they have a contract with the city of Alachua, don't they?
For reclaimed water, yes.
Well, then maybe we should stop all this stuff. Let's stop the things, you know, that's going to make this place run.
So
I mean, and I'm not the only one that I'm sure that has breathing problems.
No. Okay, I'm going to recognize Dr. Yang. Go ahead, Doctor.
I don't know what I come late. I just come from the university. I am a health professional. I'm a medical scientist. I work at NIH and also everywhere the big institute. I just have my own experience. I don't need to say those big words. Many times I have to write scientific papers in the evening, and also next day I have to go to work. So the middle at night I just cannot sleep. Sometimes executively several days I couldn't sleep. I called the police many times. My head gets so big, I'm so angry, I cannot sleep. When I want to write the paper in the daytime, I cannot concentrate. In the weekend, I cannot concentrate. At midnight, I cannot sleep until 3 p.m. And many times I called the police was at the midnight, 1 a.m., 3 a.m., or midnight, 12 o'clock. I know this is so big health problem. It can kill people, you know. If you cannot sleep for a long time, you just should cut your life short, you know. This is so big that I even don't know those pollution things. I don't have a personal experience. I didn't measure those. I only say this noise only is enough to kill people, you know. Sometimes I just really cannot endure it. I get up and call police, shoot down that evil machine. I am not crazy. I am not, you know, I crazy people. I'm a health scientist, you know. I know the damage, how deeply, how severe this damage to all the people's health. Do you think our lives are just cheaper than the Massachusetts people or anyone else or people outside the Turkey Creek?
I think Dr. Yang makes a couple of good points. She's a healthcare provider. She may not be working in the ER saving lives, but we have plenty of healthcare professionals out here who do, who are on the front lines at Shands and North Florida Regional, saving lives. They need their rest or they're going to screw up in the hospital. And patients are going to suffer. Number two, people don't always work 7 to 3 or 9 to 5. You've got people working all times of the day or night, so they need to sleep during the day. So it isn't just shut it off at night. It's got to be, we've got to have our lives restored to what they were before this plant started.
It's an invasion. I don't know if you were here when we initiated the conversation, but the plant is going to shut down either Saturday or Sunday and be shut down until the baffles are installed the first week of December.
Are you going to come back once they're installed and have this conversation with us again?
I'll come back. I don't have
It sounds to me like your hands are pretty well tied by a 30-year contract right now.
Well, no, we spend money on lawyers to figure out how to get out of the contract.
That's right.
I think this plan was built up without considering other people's health. So you should shut it down. Whether Massachusetts is already shut down by biomass plant, why we cannot shut down this one?
Thank you, Doctor. I'm going to recognize Russ Paisano and then Jim Warner. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Stanton, you stated that you are not defending GREC.
Right.
But you stood right there tonight and said that it's running right now.
It is. I just in fact stepped aside.
I don't know how you're going to prove it to us because when it's running, maybe excuse me, let me speak. Maybe it's just at night at 3 o'clock in the morning when atmospheric conditions are right. But I invite you to do what Mark Roger did. He came out here and spent a week in one of these units out here and said, call me whenever you hear it running. He got calls from all of us, 2, 3, 4 o'clock. And he literally came to our backyard and said, yeah, you're right. I invite you to do the same thing.
He was trying to leave too.
Well, one thing, sir, I do not dispute at all that the individual are inconvenienced in your own ways. Not at all. The only thing I'm just trying to say is the fact that the plant is running this very minute is a fact. A young man...
Because of atmospheric or whatever.
I can't tell you, but the plant is running right this moment. In fact, when a young man walked by me on the way out and muttered, it's not running, I went and called our system control center just to check to see if something happened to it. It is on and running.
Whatever happens,
we don't believe you. You just don't believe it.
It was all all day.
Yeah, Kathy, I'm sorry for interrupting you a little.
Speak loud so that the office recorded.
Jim Warner, Turkey Creek. One of the things we really want to know, I mean, you're going to shut the plant down. You do have an obligation as a landlord to GREC on noise ordinance. Is that not correct?
So let's take that one step further. So
Okay.
if I owned a house and you were renting from me, and your neighbor said they make a lot of noise, I can't just kick you out because your neighbor said you make a lot of noise. So as I explained earlier, please let me finish. As I explained earlier, if there's a finding of fact, that they're in violation of a law or a regulation, then we do, under the contract, under the terms of the contract, have the ability to intervene, put GREC on notice. So does that answer your question?
Yes, and the piece that's in there, because it is in the ordinance, I mean, I've spent a good part of the day studying the ordinance, and the ordinance does state, plain and audible, at 200 feet. What we want is the responsibility out of GRU to enforce that. It's not
GRU does not enforce the noise ordinance.
Okay.
Well, that's what I want to make.
We want you to take that back to the city council.
But we respectfully disagree. You are the landlord.
Yes.
If the ordinance, if the neighbor says your tenant is making me crazy with a noise, you as the landlord have an obligation to control your tenant.
I have the obligation to call the tenant and say, what's going on over there? I understand there's some issues. If the tenant says there's nothing going on, I can't just kick them out. And that's what we're being asked to do. We can't do that. If there is a finding
so
of
many
fact.
people are telling lies.
if there's a finding of fact that they're in violation of the law, again, GRU, we're not police, we can't arrest, we're not DPP.
That's a given, we're not asking that. But what we are saying out of that, you have the responsibility, and it is in the ordinance, that the landlord is responsible for the noise if it keeps going on. If it becomes declared as a public nuisance, if that's what we have to do, take it to court and declare it a public nuisance, we'll do that. But what we're asking for you is to be able to work with us. What went down, and just to set the facts straight, we had a police officer come out here, make noise measurements, make dB measurements, and come back and file it. And the issue that you go into that, he went out and he made the measurements in Turkey Creek. Totally wrong. If you look at the ordinance says 200 feet from the property line. Plainly audible. That noise measurement he made was in Turkey Creek. John, you can probably attest to this. Do you know what the dB calculation or correction factor is from where he made that and where it should be at the thing?
I do not know it.
Okay, it's log 20 times the distance of the source divided by the distance he was measuring at. That calculation is a 12 dB correction factor from Turkey Creek to where the 200-foot line property in there. He measured it and reported somewhere around 55, 60 dB. You take that correction factor in there, that's 72 dB. That's what we're complaining about, is the noise. And that's the piece is, whether the city did it or you did it wrong, they did their measurement wrong. It clearly states in the ordinance, it's 200 feet from the property line. You go out there and you make that, and you take the difference, and I went through and did the calculations. If you go out to the property line where GREC's at, it's about a quarter of a mile from the road. You take that distance there, that's about 490 meters. You take the distance into Turkey Creek at 1.25 miles, that's about 1,600 meters. You divide those two times a log 20, that's a correction factor of 12 dB to his audio meter. It's wrong. And that's what we're talking about, is come back and go through with it and help support it. Because you've got a liability as a general partner to work with us and help us. Now, whether the city's not giving you the information you need, but there's fault. And whether this person didn't know that he needed to add a correction factor to it, he needed to do it. But that's what we're complaining about. We want you to work with us and help us.
Why don't we hire somebody, an expert, that knows what they're doing, instead of some police officer coming out here trying to tell us that he doesn't care.
It doesn't have to. I mean, if you just go out and make, they have the
equipment. That to be done by Alachua, the city of Alachua, and they are not willing to back us up on this. They have a problem with your attorney saying that they need not get involved in that.
Yeah, but we need to hire an expert and get them to come out here and record all this noise that we're talking about. We know it's
as we speak.
You know, we don't want some other city employee telling us that that's not allowed and we shouldn't be complaining.
I want to recognize Elaine.
I was just going to, it's Elaine Davis, I was just going to say that you said as a landlord, you would go over and speak to your tenant. Well, as a landlord, if the neighbors complained, you would go speak to the tenant. And if the neighbors still continued to complain, you would go back and speak to them again.
Right.
And at some point, you would draw the line and say, look, you know, there's more than one neighbor complaining. Obviously, something is going on, and as a good landlord, you might actually pay a visit out there or give the phone number to the neighbors and say, call me when you hear this noise, so that you know that it's going on. So why doesn't somebody come out here when somebody calls and say, there is a problem, you can hear the noise, why don't they get in their car and come out here and listen? If you choose the time that you know that GREC is running, as it is now, then of course you're not going to hear the noise. But I guarantee you, on Sunday morning, bright and early, you're going to hear it. I walk my dog at 10 o'clock at night, you're going to hear it.
So I don't think, again, anybody on our staff is denying that there's noise. I don't.
All right, who can you get to come out here when we? Can we call? The police won't.
But my point is, I don't think we're not denying that there's noise.
But you're not doing anything to help us either.
Well,
point blank,
we're doing what we're able to do. It's my belief that we're doing what we're able to do. It's my understanding that GREC is taking steps to try to resolve some of these issues. The first week of December, the baffles will be installed, and we'll know at that point. And I feel like none of y'all either believe that's going to happen or it's going to do any good.
Well,
but
that's the reason we probably don't believe it is for 13 some odd weeks we've been told this.
What about the
This is
smell?
going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Well, lo and behold.
All right, I gotta recognize some other people. This lady over here, and then Jim, and then Pete, and then this lady over here. Okay, go. Go. And then Nathan.
I'm Judy Baker, and
Talk loud.
Judy Baker, when they started the call center, because I got tired of being ignored by other people, but when they started the call center, I called that first night, and it was, I guess, around 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was told at that time that within 5 days, somebody would call me back. I think the call center's been in force now for about 10 days. I have yet to get a call from anybody. And I've called 5 more times, and I'm told each time that somebody's called, maybe they have my phone number, they have my name, they have my address. I've gotten tired of calling because nobody's returning my calls. So what's going on?
So my understanding is that a call log is provided to the agencies that requested the call center. So that would be the City of Alachua, the City of Alachua, Alachua County, City of Gainesville, GPD, Sheriff's Department. Did I miss anybody?
Who's paying for it?
GRU is paying for it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So that call log is being forwarded to them, and those agencies, if it's in their jurisdiction, are supposed to make those follow-up phone calls.
They're not.
Please, everybody, next time you hear it, call. Start calling and don't stop calling.
Yeah, Jim McGinley, resident. I guess everybody keep in mind, I know we know that, shouldn't focus on the noise, but these baffles that are being put in will do nothing to affect air quality.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
That has not been addressed at all.
Okay, Pete?
Yeah, my question was, we're not technically qualified to know what's causing the noise that we hear so clearly sometimes, and that we don't hear other times. It isn't wind direction, I can assure you. I live back by San Velasco Hammock, and I can hear it thumping my walls when the wind's blowing in the opposite direction. It doesn't have to do with wind. It doesn't have to do with weather, hot, cold, humid, dry. It's something that's happening at the plant.
That's why I said no noise.
No. So if you say they're running right now, I'll tell you they're very quiet. So whatever they're running at right now and whatever's going on there is acceptable. But when you get these complaint calls about the noise, what's going on then? If it's in operation, is it a higher level of operation? Or is it just blowing steam because it's got too much and it's trying to get rid of it? What's going on at the time that we're hearing the noise? That's what we can't correlate, because we're not experts. You are.
Well, those times, as Ken said, are being reported back to GREC when there's neighborhood dissatisfaction, so they have the ability to try to tie that into what's going on in the operation. I'll just make one comment that in this plant, and this is common of all power plants, between, this one has a minimum load of about 70 megawatts and 100, and even if it was lower, the noise signature, it just doesn't change between low load and high load.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's what we're confused about.
Why is it quiet
right now? It's quiet.
Okay, this lady's next. Thank you, Pete.
I don't dispute that it's different.
And what's different?
I live in Viehe country, which is right over the fence over there. Karen Stroh-Snyder from Viehe country. Now, I'm hearing baffle schmaffle. The baffle is for the noise. They've sent you guys out here, you're PR people. You're obviously...
Nobody's sent us out here.
Okay.
I came out here, it was...
You don't have the expertise that we're looking for the answers.
Okay,
Either
well,
of you.
we can leave if you
You
like
don't.
us to.
All right, the baffle is for the noise. What about the smell? What about the particulate matter? Do you have any answers at all on that?
No.
I don't.
Nothing, see, nothing.
Okay, this lady over here, and then Nathan.
My name's Jan McDonald, and I live in Turkey Creek. What are you going to do with this information you've gained tonight? And did you talk with the city commission prior to coming here?
No.
So you came here voluntarily, but what are you going to do with the information you gained?
Probably get back and meet as a staff and decide what, if anything, we can do, and probably talk to the folks at GREC and make sure they understand the issues and the significance.
What about the folks at the city commission? I mean, do you have any communication with the city commissioners, the people who own the land?
I don't know.
So you have some communication with them. So you will take some of this information to them?
Yes, but I'm pretty sure the city commission is already very aware of it. I know that I've sat through well, I may not be there, but I'm watching on television, and I know that I watched and observed several of you, I recognize some of you, that came to the city commission meeting, so I know that they are aware of the issues.
What are they doing?
What would I say to them?
What would you say to them?
I'm not sure what I would say to them.
It's a reasonable answer.
So you got nothing from this meeting?
Well, I would say that I have learned a lot about some issues that I was not as aware of. I knew that the noise was a big concern, the smell and the dust that you've described. I think that that's something we'd like to talk more in depth with GREC about.
And I'm taking notes, everything that's being said.
Okay, Nathan's next.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? I'm Nathan Scott. I didn't want to interrupt the meeting. I appreciate the large turnout. I just filed a petition challenging the air permit, alleging that it would be premature for the air permit to be approved at this time until the stack modifications were complete, because the consultant's report, the Hessler report, clearly indicates that they're limited in what they can do on the stack. I have seen acoustic baffles installed in my technical career. I've got an engineering degree, built nuclear submarines and airplanes for Boeing. The question of whether it works, we're hopeful. But again, until the fix is in and emissions testing has been conducted, I felt it was premature for the air permit to just be rubber stamped by the agency in Tallahassee. And as a result of my petition and the county's petition, GREC withdrew its application at this time. So that's
tell us who you are?
Nathan Scott.
What do you do, Nathan?
Got an aerospace engineering degree, MBA in finance, and a law degree. Who do you work for? Myself, I'm an attorney.
Okay, you live out here?
No, I live in Gainesville. I've been out
And you
here.
filed a lawsuit, or what are you talking
A
about?
petition for administrative hearing challenging.
He's a friend of our group.
Okay, good.
I don't work for GREC, and I work for GRU. Janie wrote a nice letter to the editor, commended me today in today's paper. I'm just trying to stand up and do the right thing, but I'm probably going to have to leave here shortly because I've got another commitment. But I just appreciate the attendance, appreciate Ms. V and her staff coming out, and I just ask you guys, since she's new in this position, to offer your support to her, at least until such time as we can work through some of these issues.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Since you're dealing with the legal side of it, can you get names of everybody that was involved in making the decision to open this plant up?
You mean the contract?
No, I'm talking about names of individuals that were involved in committees, whether they work for the government or anything else. We need all of their names and how to get in touch with them.
Like I say, that's a city commission issue, but I just want there's one thing I wanted to briefly mention. A good point, and you mentioned it eluded my mind. If I think of it as very important, and I'm getting old, I guess. But I just tried to do the right thing, and you know, I know you guys have every right to be upset. I've been out here. I've been to your prior meeting. I heard the noise, and oh, this is the important point. Mr. Stanton stated that the plant's running. Well, obviously, when I was out here last time, it's clearly running because it sounds like a roaring jet engine instead of 47, like I used to build at the end of the runway. I haven't heard that, so the operable question is, at what power level is the plant currently running, and had the DEP challenge gone to administrative hearing in the conduct of discovery, I would have gotten those operator logs that we've requested repeatedly from the GREC representative, and they weren't. A simple question was asked of him at the meeting, and the information was not provided. It's not state secret. We're not talking about nuclear submarines here. But had that gone to administrative hearing, I could have gotten those logs by demanding them in discovery. but it would be very interesting to see what power level this plant is currently running. Perhaps Mr. Stanton and the dispatch people at GRU know, but...
95 megawatts.
95 megawatts, so that's approximately 90% of rated capacity.
About 95% of rated capacity.
All right. Well, like I said, I don't hear the noise, but I've heard it in the past.
I don't believe it.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
This lady in the back is next.
Harry Warner, I live in Turkey Creek, and I guess I'm just a little worried about if GREC sells the plant now to someone, because apparently the city of Gainesville is not going to buy it, or at least not right now. Then if they sell it to someone soon, then who do we have do we have someone all new to deal with our problems? Or will GREC be handing them off to someone else, and then we have to start all over again with our issues?
Well, I think that you raise a really good point, because GREC did put us on notice that they were planning to sell the plant, which is why we had, in the contract, we had the opportunity to offer to buy it, first right to buy it. And so the City Commission did give us permission to make an offer. It appeared to be, and GREC told us that it was much lower than what they would accept. So I think it is possible that they will sell it. However, you have to keep in mind that until some of these issues are resolved, chances, I mean, I don't know what the chances are, but you would certainly do, a company that has the ability to buy a plant that costs $500 million, you got to have a lot of due diligence, and so until these things get resolved, I have to believe that would be an issue.
No,
but
I wouldn't want to buy it.
You're next.
I'm a resident of Turkey Creek. Lynn Romrell. If titles are important to drop, I've been an associate dean at the College of Medicine, 28 years, 6 years at Florida State College of Medicine. But I'm just curious, because the Gainesville Sun reported that the operating cost of this plant is 50% higher than Deer Haven. Is that really true?
You know, I don't have that statistic. Do you know that, John?
Yep. The operating cost, I mean the production cost in the industry, operating cost is considered to be fuel and variable O&M as opposed to fixed cost. And right now, GREC actually is cheaper than Deer Haven and more expensive than our combined cycle unit, gas-powered over at Kelly. Now, it's a newer unit, so when we start paying for the fixed portion of it after they become commercial, those charges come in. But on how we would dispatch the plant each day, we looking at economic, which is the lowest cost. Right now, GREC, we're paying about $39 and small change, if I remember, for a fuel cost plus variable O&M for a megawatt hour of electricity. Deer Haven at full load, where it's got its best efficiency, is probably about $40.50, 41 bucks right now, and we're about $31.50 over at Kelly. And this all changes because the heat rates change depending on what load you're at, and the fuel changes every day. But yeah, it gives you a ballpark. Right now, for our dispatch, GREC is slotting in between Kelly and Deer Haven.
So that's between because they don't have a mortgage payment yet.
Correct. Right, and the mortgage payment on Deer Haven and the mortgage payment on Kelly and so forth, that's already in the base rates that you all are already paying.
Question in that regard. Have you continued to operate Kelly and Deer Haven at the same rates of production that they were operating before GREC came online?
No.
Are you intending to continue that?
No. The only way you could do that would be to never purchase any economic power from offside the system. Because if the load doesn't change, because we've got an additional generating source. So if the load is the same, you've got an additional generating source here, then the other generating sources have to back down.
So you're not operating those two existing facilities you own at their maximum efficiency due to GREC's power fleet?
No. We're operating them at less often. The Kelly plant operates much closer to its most optimal thermodynamic, thermal efficiency point, particularly at this mild weather time of the year. If Deer Haven is in fact completely off right now, Deer Haven 2, the coal unit, it's in its annual outage period. The reason it's off, it's traditionally off this time of year because of the low, mild weather. But if it were to be on, it would be at very, very, very low loads and very far from its most economic operating point.
And that's because you're going to be able to buy cheaper from GREC than you can operate your engine.
Right. And given that, well, the first indication that we would have a minimum of 70 megawatts from GREC. That's the contractual minimum generation we would take.
That's the
70 megawatts.
Is that the power purchase agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
This gentleman's next.
Excuse me, I'd like to just share, and I'm a Turkey Creek resident, and I used to be a small business owner with the Gainesville Region Utility, and I'd just like to share some information for my friends here. I live at the back of Turkey Creek, and I hear the noise, and I've been working a lot with Jerry, and I know that there's plenty of people that complain about it. But I'd like to share a couple pieces of information, is that Gainesville, City of Gainesville owns GRU. And if you got an issue with GRU, you got to take it with the City of Gainesville because they work for the City Commission. And the City of Gainesville contracted with this biomass plant, and they built that plant based upon a revenue stream that they needed to get from the City of Gainesville to build that plant, because why would anybody build a plant without a guaranteed revenue stream? Now, our City of Gainesville negotiated that deal before a thing called fracking. And fracking changed the whole economics of the biomass plant. When fracking came into being, it changed the cost of coal. The cost of coal went down, the cost of natural gas went down, and the cost of biomass went up.
So we don't need it.
So the point is, yes sir, I'd like you to just listen, okay? Because you interrupted this meeting a number of times. Okay, is that GRU is contractually obligated to this biomass plant, and when they did that contract, if fracking would not have come into being, they would have gotten power cheaper for us over and above coal, and at, quote, a better, supposedly a better rate and a better for the ecology. Because I went to a couple of meetings with GREC before they built this plant, and it was here, and there was a couple of them, not here, but over at this other building, and I listened to the presentation that they made about, you know, when we talked about the trucks and yada, 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 and all the stuff that's going to affect us, but none of us thought that the noise was going to be there. And hopefully they're going to deal with the noise issue, they're going to deal with the smoke issue, they're going to deal with the particulates in the air. But Gainesville Region Utilities works for the City of Gainesville, and we're stuck with that. And to Janie's point, if they're not meeting their obligations, their attorneys have got to do the deals to get us out of the deal. But us yelling at this lady or this guy ain't going to get us anywhere. Okay.
I have one more point to make, expanding on that, and that is that in the city budget, Gainesville city budget recently, the 2014 budget, for purchasing power, they deliberately cut back on the purchase of natural gas by 2/3. They deliberately said we're not buying cheaper energy, so that we're then forced to buy biomass.
Go ahead, John.
We're required to.
Let John, you want to answer that?
It's back to the gentleman in the back was alluding to, talking about how we would run other units with GREC in the mix. Well, one of the things that happens is the Kelly plant, our natural gas burning plant, is going to run a lot less. It's not that we made a decision to buy less gas. The dynamics of the system, let me give an example. And I happen to know this because it was right during the middle of the budget period. And I have the data in case somebody asked. We had that particular day in the middle of the night, the low load, if I remember, was about 167 megawatts. No, actually a little lower. It was about 159. If you look at 70 megawatts of GREC in there at the bottom, that gives you, do some subtraction for me, 111 or something like that, the difference. In the middle of the night that you get down to. If you got Deerhaven 2 on, you got Kelly on, and GREC, you're starting to come down, you got to do something. You know, it's the old 10 pounds in the 5-pound sack. You got to do something. You got choices. You cycle Deerhaven off, very expensive to do. You can cycle Kelly off, expensive but less expensive. Or you can keep the two of them on and dump the power into the market and sell megawatts for less than it costs us to make. So those are the decisions that get made, and the most economical of those three choices during the valley period in the middle of the night is to cycle Kelly off. So it's going to be cycling a lot this year. It's going to be running fewer hours this year, so it's going to be consuming less gas this year. But it's not that we said, let's buy less gas and see what happens. It's what is the dynamic of the system have now that we've got GREC in the mix and we've got these other things. How does it make the other units behave? That's how it makes that one behave, and that results in a lower gas forecast.
Go ahead, gentlemen.
Not right.
Okay, my name is John Southern. I'm a structural engineer here in town. I've lived in Turkey Creek since 2003, so I can assure you we're not crazy. What I can tell you is that the odor is intermittent. I have been sending my reports to a guy named Gus, I think with the... Gus Almost, I think maybe he's with the Department of DEP with Alachua County.
Right.
He has told me that the odor is coming from decaying wood chips that were put on site when, you know, as a fuel source for the original startup of the plant, and that they have not yet worked through the original amount of those chips, and that once those chips are burned, that if the new chips come in and then they get burned within a reasonable period of time, then the smell should be going away. Now, I was told probably 2.5 weeks ago that it would take 2 weeks for it to burn off. Gus has since sent me another email saying it's taking longer than expected, but I'm hopeful that within the next few weeks, maybe the smell problem will go away. And I'm also hopeful that the baffle problem the baffles will help. But what I can tell you about the noise is that the noise has been getting worse. And I know this because I'm far enough back that while I could hear it sometimes when I was outside my door, I could really hear it better at night. In the daytime, I didn't hear it as often, okay? But I was never able to hear it in my house till about a week and a half ago. Even as far set back as I am, I can hear it at night because I stay up till 3 in the morning. I'm a night owl, and so I can actually hear it through my walls. And then when we open the door, it sounds like a jet's flying overhead, but it's constant.
Well, that information about it being worse in the last couple of weeks, we have certainly passed that along to GREC.
Okay. Now, the other thing I will say about the noise is it is intermittent as well. It tends to be worse starting about 11 o'clock to midnight.
Yes.
And usually by the time I wake up in the morning, if I'm waking up at 8 or 9, it's gone. But some days it's not gone. Sometimes it's even worse when I'm getting up in the morning. But you know, so there is something operational different going on when it's louder. It's just not getting loud. It's not like the plants. It might be running at a constant capacity, but there's something going on over there that's creating additional noise. And it's not the wind, and it's not any of that other garbage.
I'd like to give someone who hasn't had a chance to speak an opportunity. Leonard?
Leonard Dean, my wife and I have lived here about 17 years now. Ms. V, appreciate you being here. Thank you. Taking a lot of heat. John, I have 2 questions. Number one, we've alluded to a cloud or something that is condensation or whatever. There are particles in. If you go to the little convenience store over there and watch the employees' cars that sit there, or you go over to the county garage, you'll see a white film. If you go out and jump in your pool or in your hot tub or whatever the covers, there's like a white powdery substance on that. It's not pollen. It's new to us now in the last month or 2. That's one thing that you can allude to. Second of all, why was the plant built? You get so many different people. It was supposed to lower our costs and all of that. And the gentleman that you inherited this from, I think is a real traitor because he took off and left everybody high and dry. But the thing of it is, why was it built in the first place? Was it supposed to lower?
Because of tax benefits.
Let me finish and you can just be quiet for a moment. Everybody interrupts people. Why was it built in the first place? Was it to lower our electric bills?
Well, yes, it was. I mean, back at the time the decision was made, the general manager at the time had recommended a coal plant, and We had a lot of citizens that came before the City Commission that said there was going to be carbon legislation, and there was many, many reasons not to do coal. Along, probably about maybe a year after this process started, the Governor Chris said that there would be no new coal plants in the state of Florida. He put a moratorium on it. So that kind of, and there has not been a coal plant since then. So the Commission, because we saw the need for power down the road, base load power, you know, John talked about different, you have base load that you serve 24 hours a day, then you have intermediate that comes on to fill in some of the gaps. And then you have peaking that's like when it's really, really hot and we've got to meet the load and you got to get it on quick. So we needed base load generation. And we were looking at coal. Coal got nixed. The choices were a renewable energy source or gas, and that was really what it came down to. And the City Commission at the time decided that based on legislation that they thought would come down the road, carbon legislation, renewable portfolio standard, by the way, a lot of states have those, we don't in Florida, that would be the best option. And so that's really in a nutshell, and I mean, believe me, it went on for several years. I attended many of the meetings, but that's why the decision was made. Shortly thereafter, the economy started to go down, our energy use started to go down, and so the demand for power went down. In the middle of this, we're negotiating a biomass contract. We signed the contract. Fracking comes in starts happening all around. There's still a lot of questions about fracking, but fracking basically made the natural gas supply much more plentiful. So all these things kind of all came into at the same time, and you know, it was probably the perfect storm. But the bottom line is, and you know, my job is to try to deal with what we have now, and we have this contract, and so going forward we have to figure out how to use it to our benefit and how to get our customers the best benefit we can. So obviously there's a lot of work to do, and you know, I want to repeat what I said. I do empathize. I can't imagine what y'all have been going through, and I am a light sleeper, so I totally get it. I don't think anybody here doubts. I don't need to come out and listen because I've heard you and I believe you, and I don't have any reason to doubt that. But I will talk to GREC, and you know, we'll try to work towards some solutions for you. You know, again, I'll leave my card. Nona's card will be here as well. But you know, our intention was really, we've seen and heard you talk a lot about us, about GRU. Now that I'm the Interim General Manager, I wanted to come out and meet you and put names with faces and tell you that we do realize it's a real problem. And so, you know, we're going to be doing our best to try to work within the laws and what we're allowed to do and what we're able to do to try to make it better. And I am hopeful that the baffles will help, but I know that we'll be heavily involved when those baffles go on and when the plant starts up. So,
are emissions being addressed?
I'm sorry.
No, they're not.
To repeat the question, are emissions being addressed? Well, there's two types of emissions that I've heard people speak of from the plant. There's the emissions from the stack, and those are the ones I mentioned before when I was sharing a conversation with a gentleman over there, where right now that stack is, the emissions are as restrictive as anything in the state of Florida. They've got the continuous emission monitoring on out there. They're out there right now. There is another device certified to assure the state that this is reading correctly. So the state will make sure that it operates within those parameters. The other emission I've heard people talk about is fugitive dust that's being liberated from the wood pile. And the only thing I can share, and again, not defending anybody, you know, our main focus is on our customers and their needs, not GREC. But we do have a legal binding contract that we need to abide with. It's the ethical business thing to do. We need to maximize it under it. But back to the fugitive dust thing, I can just share with you, I know they have purchased 3 devices that kind of look like a snowblower if anybody ever goes out and skis out west sometimes. this big fan device that fogs where they have mobile equipment moving around. And I've been there, I've watched them do it. I'm not vouching for how effective it is. I can only tell you that they're attempting to do something. So they've got these big blowers hooked up to water, so they're fogging over the area where they are moving that around. So they're attempting, maybe not successfully, but they're at least attempting to do something. And the gentleman over here left, I was talking with them today, they said the last of that old wood has been removed. The inventory that they'll be keeping is about a 15-day inventory. So I think we've all had wood around that's been there about 15 days. I, again, can't speak for them, but I don't imagine it's going to rot too badly in about 15 days.
I have a question for Mr. Stanton. Did you assist in negotiating the contract with GREC?
Yes, ma'am.
There you go. I have a question for Ms. Viehe. How much of GRU's endeavors are going into solar energy?
Yes. Less and less.
Well, we have probably I think we have per capita the highest penetration in the United States for individuals. So, you know, we're probably more aggressive with solar than any utility in the state of Florida, so.
Basically, it sounds like what we're...
I want to give a few more people an opportunity who haven't had a chance. Lynn, quickly.
I live out in Hague. My name is Lynn Koyas, and first of all, on the site plan, they didn't even mention Turkey Creek or Hague. That needs to be addressed. They also negotiated for a publicly owned utility company. Why did you redact the contract? Why didn't everybody be notified? If it's a publicly owned utility, that right there should be part of the problem here. Second of all, you also have removed the backout clause. Everybody that ever negotiates a contract, that backup clause stays in there. For some reason, that was removed. And then you go on there to say 41% of the plant was sold already, which should have provided a clause to protect GRU since they already sold it to international investors. That should have been a third protection for GRU. None of these things you keep saying. I don't understand why attorneys haven't come and protected GRU and all these people. If those three things were violated in the clause to begin with, that was in the contract. And then you also have on here, you collected $32.1 million in elevated fuel adjustment charges over the last 3 years to offset the impact of the biomass the minute it came online. Again, that's not providing any leeway or any relief for these people. And then the next thing was the permit. GRU or GREC is asking for flexibility in that permit, that air permit. They're asking for 30 times the emission of hydrochloric acids. Why would the EPA give flexibility to a company that's already, it's poisoning because Tom Bussing, the former city of Gainesville mayor, has already proven that GRU and Deerhaven paid $140 million to put new filters on the Deerhaven plant to clean up the air, and now GREC is out here poisoning it. And the final line is, you paid $1.5 for that $1 million reclaimed water line, yet they're taking $1.4 million gallons a day out of the aquifer. That is going to dry up all the wells in Hague. And not to mention all the poisons from that energizer, the cadmium, the nitrates, the sulfates, the arsenic, is pulling that way. That's going to affect all of our lives. Not only the noise, the particulates, the dust, the nanoparticulates, the 2.5 microns, there's a major amount of problems. This whole thing should have been thrown out. And I don't understand why GRU keeps dancing around. You guys had protection in that damn contract, and you didn't stand up for us.
Ma'am, if I could, this is my third week as the interim
general
manager, so I did not negotiate the contract. It would be much easier on me if there were no contract, but I have to live with the fact that there is a contract. One of the things you mentioned was the redacted contract, and again, under state law, the contractors are allowed to do that if they think that there's some type of, what's it called, John?
Trade secrets.
Trade secrets, and generally it's the pricing information. So that's not something that GRU wanted, that's something that the company wanted, and anybody that bid on the biomass plant, there were 2 other companies that put in bids, I think it was 2, had the same requirement, is that they be able to redact that stuff. Again, you know, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but I can't undo what's been done. I have to deal with what is now. And so that's why we're here tonight. I really wanted to hear from y'all. I didn't have to come tonight. Nobody made me. The city commission doesn't know I'm here. I guess I probably should have told them, but I just thought it just seemed like the right thing to do, and my staff and a lot of the folks that are here tonight, you know, I didn't make them come. They wanted to come. So, you know, we all feel bad. We all, you know, I wish, again, that I didn't have to deal with what I have to deal with, but I do. So I appreciate you being here tonight, and I really mean that. I appreciate you being here. The worst thing that can happen to us is when we schedule something like this and only 2 people show up. So I know how passionate you are about it, and I know how, I think I understand.
It's emergent. The health, if it's damaged, they cannot recover anymore. The hair, the ear, if it becomes deafness, the hair cell, I'm a scientist, I look at the hair cells which control the hearing. Once the hair cells, because of noise damaged, they never can regenerate it. They never recover. You're deaf for the whole life.
Thank you, doctor. You had a question? You, and then you're next.
I've lived out here for 9 years, and I'm a regular jogger. And for the last couple of weeks, every time I've run, I've developed a headache halfway through my run, and primarily from the odor. It's been so strong. Last Thursday morning, it was extremely strong. And just to reinforce that, the deal about stockpiling wood chips, we live in the state of Florida. We get a high amount of rainfall, and you know, we're supposed to trust that GREC is only going to stockpile those chips for 2 weeks. I don't think so. And even if they did throw in 2 weeks, when we have high amounts of rainfall, that wood is going to get wet and it's going to smell when they burn.
Okay, next.
I just wanted to bring something to Kathy's attention. As you can see, most of us are senior citizens in this room. We only make up a small portion of this community. We have a lot of young people, young families,
a golf course out here.
Kids running around, playing outside and on the playground. And I mean, they're probably going home doing homework and getting kids ready for school. But I just didn't want you to think that this was
I'm very familiar with this neighborhood. I used to live to the golf course. One of our customer operations director, I don't know if anybody knows John Fred, but he used to live out here. Been to his house, had dinner there, so I'm very familiar with this neighborhood. Again, you know,
Okay, anyone else who has not had an opportunity to speak? Harold.
On the issue of fugitive dust, I took this to Chris Bird. I was collecting samples outside of the main gate on the side of the road, and these are the wood chips that come out of the trucks. And the fugitive dust is mixed in with the wood chips. At a distance of 1,000 feet or more in each direction, you can see the wood chips deposited on US 441, as witnessed by a lot of people who have had these things ping on their windshields. Now, the public health issue here is that the trucks themselves are exporting the fugitive dust onto US 441 for thousands of feet north and south. Okay? And not only that, these chips land on the road and they increase the braking distance of anybody who's trying to stop. And the Department of Transportation needs to show up and check this out. So the particulates are not being measured. They're coming out in the trucks. The trucks are not able to dump their complete load inside the plant. And the plant is not insisting that they do. GREC is not insisting that these trucks get cleaned out perfectly clean, so they're allowed to exit with debris, hundreds of pounds a day with 150 or more trucks. So you have a mammoth exportation of fugitive dust that cannot be stopped in any practical sense. Thank you.
Okay, I just had one more question. It's my understanding, I believe, that the city of Alachua gets its electricity from GRU, is that correct?
They buy it wholesale
cheaper.
Power from
and when is that contract up, do you know?
2 years.
Do you know, John?
I think it's 16.
Yeah, 16.
I'm doing it off the top of my head.
16 is what I understand. Interesting.
Go ahead. I've already spoken, but I just want to say, Kathy,
Yes, ma'am.
if something happened and the plant was somehow destroyed.
Oh, come on. What was your name again?
We looked at it seriously. I'm just saying, if something happened and let's just say the plant was never built, would you be able to, would things be all right? Would you still be able to function? Would you have to build something else someplace else?
Solar.
Solar.
Yeah, solar.
Or anything.
Sun-state.
I mean, would GRU be able to go on and supply power if something happened?
Well, I have to address two things. First, I have to address solar. So, solar is not providing the power tonight. Okay, so there you go. We have a limit what we can do with solar. We are the most aggressive utility in the state of Florida, though, in implementing solar.
You better be for what we're paying.
And that's one of the reasons. It's 3 times more expensive. So, you know.
But would you be able to go on without it? If something
Of course we could. We would come up with another.
So if legally something happened, we need hope. If legally something happened and this place gets shut down, the Florida Department of Environmental comes in and says, you guys are done, you shouldn't even have built this place this close to people.
Scrap it. There's a glut of energy off the grid.
All the time have to respond to stuff that happens, and it could be federal regulations that change. It could be, you know, things happen to facilities. You know, John mentioned that they're in an outage right now. It's a planned outage, but they're not all planned. Some things break and then we're out and we have to buy power off the grid from other utilities, that sort of thing. So,
if it went away, though, you guys wouldn't be depressed.
I think I've answered that question.
All right. Paul, you're the last one, so make it good.
Yes, sir.
Your capacity, when were you ever up to capacity with what you had before GREC?
I don't understand that question. Do you, John?
Well, let me try this and see if it answers your question, John. Stop me if I'm going the wrong way. We have an installed capacity right now, including GREC, of about 640 megawatts.
Including GREC? I thought it was that without it.
We have retired some other units. And so it's about that.
Oh, okay. I'm asking before you retired anything and before GREC. How much did you have?
611.
Okay.
Did
you ever use it all?
No. But again, as Ms. V was saying, recall, there's 3 different types of plants. There's base load that run all the time, and they don't come on and off very easily or very cheaply.
I understand.
Then there's some cycling ones to fill in the load, and then you've got some peaking, and you have to maintain by the Public Service Commission, the North American Energy Reliability Council, a lot of regulatory agencies that would impose large, significant fines. You have to have enough capacity to have a reserve at all times. So when we have our largest unit, 250 megawatts at Deer Haven out, we have to be able to have enough installed generation or enough purchase power under firm contract, including the transmission, not just the energy, to be able to not only serve our load, but be able to serve it and to withstand the first contingency event that might happen to us. Okay. Such as losing a transmission line, losing the next biggest unit. There's very specific rules for that of how much reserve energy that you have to have available. So no, you would never use it all.
Well, what I understand though, there was only 400 and some ever went up to 400. So you had 200 before you even started anything else. That was from the meetings that I heard on TV.
Correct. And as Ms. V was saying, that was back in the day when the economy was doing better, electrical consumption was going this way. And as you know, power plants they take a long time to license and build. And they're a long-term commitment. So you build them not for what's happening today and tomorrow, but for what your very best analysis tells you is going to be happening 5, 10, and 20 years from now.
Well, I'm just worried about my health, and I can't sell my house because I'd move out of here in a minute. I've been here since 2001, and this is 7.
This is like coppers.
Because I will have the first lawsuit if there's anything wrong. I keep going to the doctors. If there's anything coming from particulates, then we could prove it.
It is.
And that'll be
It's a
big
fact.
one, too.
I want to thank, we all need to test our hearing threshold. I want to thank,
Okay, Mary, this is with Biomass Plan. Does everybody in here have Post Box 101?
what does it mean that?
The keys, someone left their keys in the post box, and I was hoping they would.
Post Office Box 101.
101.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
I want to thank the representatives from GRU that came tonight. You were great.
Yes, thank you.
No.